Okay, good evening. This is the March 24th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. As a preliminary matter, this is Morris DiPaolo, the chair of the board. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Beth Cassavant.
Here.
John LeBeau.
Present.
Jim Kane.
Affirmative.
John Samia. John is not going to be joining us this evening. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kevin Mizikar.
I'm here.
Kevin Lass.
Kristen Lass is here.
Yeah, Kristen Lass is here too. That's good. Dan Rowley.
Present.
Valerie Clemme.
Here.
Jeff Howland, are you here? I thought I saw him a minute ago.
Yes, I'm here. I have to unmute first. I'm here.
Okay. Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Victor De Oliveira. Victor? All right, let's come back to him. Richard Ricca.
Yes, I'm here.
Mark Donahue.
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Please remember to mute your device until I call on you to speak. So good evening. This is an open meeting of the Board of Selectmen, and it's being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth, due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. Excuse me. The order, which you can find posted on our website, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded to so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Board of Selectmen, excuse me, does anybody know where that's coming from? I was getting a lot of feedback. Okay. For this meeting, the Board of Selectmen is convening by Google Hangouts as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, that you cannot, and that take care not to share screen your computer unless asked by the chairperson or the staff person. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before doing so, permit me to cover some of the ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, Morris DiPaolo, Chair, will introduce each board member or staff member who has the lead role for this particular item or a guest speaker associated with this item on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members first and then to the staff members, inviting each by name to provide any comment or questions. I will then call upon members to offer a motion and then for a second. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Remember that unless a document is being shared, your camera feed is triggered by your speaking or background noise. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For others in attendance that are expected to present, please hold until your name is called to present. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Remember that unless a document is being shared, your camera feed is triggered by your speaking or background noise. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. After your presentation, members of the board will be given the opportunity to ask questions. Now, for the public comment in public hearings, which we are going to have at least one this evening, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. What just happened here, Bob?
I plugged you in so you won't lose your battery.
Okay. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy, whatever, with other members, please do so through the chair. In other words, any comments go through the chair. Taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Okay, so I believe, Val, that I can go into the regular agenda at this point.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, to start, I am going to read the notice that allows this meeting to proceed. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Board of Selectmen will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. All meetings and hearings listed in the agenda will be done so through remote participation. Specific information and guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website, www.shrewsburyma.gov/coronavirus. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen or watch the meeting may do so by visiting www.shrewsburymediaconnection.org. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive report of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. To participate in the public comment portion of this meeting, dial 1-636-495-1574 and enter the following PIN, 603-591-308#. Please mute your device until the chair of the Board of Selectmen addresses your agenda item or opens the meeting to public comment. Okay. So again, all of our votes this evening are going to have to be by roll call vote. So we're going to move a little more slowly than usual. Could I have a motion to approve the bills, payrolls, and warrants?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion in the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Cassavant,
Aye.
Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. Kane,
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo, aye. Okay, could I have a motion? We don't have any minutes to approve, right, Val? We do?
Correct. No minutes to approve.
I'm sorry?
Correct. There are no minutes to approve this evening.
Okay. Does anybody have any announcements or reports this evening that aren't on the agenda? Okay. Mr. Mizikar, do you have anything to report this evening that's not on the agenda?
I do not.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna move down to item 5, but before the manager makes his report, I just, on the COVID-19, I'd just like to make a few general comments. On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank all of our employees, the town employees who are working either on site or remotely. Our staff has done an excellent job keeping all our facilities running, all our systems running, public safety is running well, and they're all just doing a tremendous job. And I just want to thank them for the continued work. Also, I'd like to thank the residents for following the advisories from the federal and the state government and the advisories that we've posted on the website and fed out through the listservs. And finally, I just want to thank all the healthcare providers, the store workers, the pharmacy workers, and all other essential people who are working so that we can have some normalcy and we can have some of our basic needs being met. So thank you to everyone. Mr. Mizikar, I know we've all been talking to you over the past week or so regarding the situation, and you've been keeping us apprised of what we've been doing at the town level to make this to make it through this crisis. So I'd like you, if you could, to give us a report on where you see us in terms of addressing the situation.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to update the Board of Selectmen and the residents of the town of Shrewsbury on the actions the town has taken in response to the global coronavirus pandemic. First, I want to report that currently the town of Shrewsbury has 3 residents that have tested positive for COVID-19. Town officials will notify residents of any new cases on a daily basis. Starting in the middle of the week of March 2nd, the town began additional and extraordinary measures to reduce exposure to the infection of the coronavirus to students and school staff townwide. These initial efforts were led by the Public Buildings Division through enhanced cleaning of all public buildings. Upon the issuance of the declaration of state of emergency by Governor Charlie Baker on March 10th, the Board of Selectmen requested the town manager's office begin to prepare for our response to the upcoming challenges. With the support of the entire town leadership team, Assistant Town Manager Kristen Lass led the development and refining of the town's continuity of operations planning for this specific challenge. From the outset of the planning efforts and at the center of each decision we have made, no matter how big or small, we've had 2 simple priorities. First, preserve and protect the residents of the town of Shrewsbury by taking any and all actions that we can as a local government to reduce their risk to exposure. Second, ensure the long-term continuity of operations of each and every department of the town of Shrewsbury. Please know that all town departments are operating. Specifically, we are servicing the most vulnerable residents by providing Meals on Wheels services to elders, and the school department is serving grab-and-go lunches to families who receive support through reduced and free lunches. Of course, our police and fire, water and sewer, school administration, and Selco are up and functioning as well. In order to meet the goals that we've set, we've had to take extraordinary actions. We continue to address the current situation, review all actions that we have taken on a daily basis, and make changes. To date, some of those actions have included the following. On Sunday, March 15th, the decision was made to close all town buildings to the public with the exception of the fire and police stations. The town's emergency operations center has been activated and is fully operational should we need to run our response and daily operations from that environment. A website has been established at www.shrewsburyma.gov/coronavirus for information surrounding the town's response to this pandemic. I encourage residents to visit that page and click on the Notify Me link to to sign up for notifications to be sent to their email and/or cell phone. An additional update will be sent each day at or around 4:30 if any positive cases have been identified within the town. Any notification will come through the Alert Center on the webpage. A COVID-19 information line has been established at 508-799-1019. The line provides facts and information about COVID-19, how to stop the spread, and what to do if someone is experiencing symptoms, as well as quarantine information. The line will be available in multiple languages. If you have a medical emergency, please dial 911, not this information line. All town buildings, with the exception of the police station and fire headquarters, are closed to the public through April 7th, 2020. Staff will be available by phone and email during normal business hours, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on a weekday basis. Staff are working alternative and rotating work schedules to ensure long-term operations. Although the senior center is closed, as I previously mentioned, Meals on Wheels program will continue to operate until further notice. Transportation provided by the Council on Aging has been temporarily suspended. The Shrewsbury Public Schools are closed until April 7th, and they have a variety of information on their website at schools.shrewsburyma.gov. Town and school playgrounds and courts are closed until further notice. We want residents to be able to enjoy our parks, but also stay safe and well. Please use the parks for passive recreation, such as walking, hiking, and enjoying nature. Some other useful information that is also available on our coronavirus page includes the fact that trash and recycling will still continue to operate as scheduled. Please visit our solid waste page on the website to review all retailers that provide blue bags. We are communicating regularly with our bag supplier, and there's no disruption anticipated in the supply chain. Those retailers with delivery services will be able to deliver blue bags like other commodities, subject to minimum delivery amounts or other restrictions. Effective March 18th, Waste Management temporarily closed its residential call center. During this time, please contact the Shrewsbury Department of Public Works at 508-841-8502 to report any missed pickups or to schedule any bulky items for collection. Waste Management is also asking residents to make sure their bags are completely closed to prevent potentially contaminated items from becoming loose. Simple Recycling, the pink bag textile pickups have been temporarily suspended in their operations across the entire Commonwealth. There is a drop box located outside the entrance of the town hall for payment of town bills and other non-USPS mail to the town of Shrewsbury. A larger drop box, which is green, is located at the front entrance of the building for anything that will not fit in the smaller box. All town-sponsored recreation activities and programs are postponed, and a new date for the registration of summer programs will be announced. The town is well positioned to operate in a remote environment because of our IT infrastructure. Critical staff have laptops, we utilize the Google Suite, we have VPN, and we use DocuSign to be able to enable operations even from a remote environment. We do ask for residents' patience during these times. Some specific things that you may see that is not normal is, given our reduced staffing on site, your call may not be answered live. However, leave us a message and your call will be returned. Please use our online payment portal by clicking the Pay Online button from the homepage of our website. Mr. Chairman, I just have a few other matters that I will update the community on. The Shrewsbury Police Department and Shrewsbury Fire Department have done an extraordinary job and will continue to support the CVS COVID-19 testing site. This site has been exclusively used for the testing of first responders and medical personnel since it opened last week. This site may transition to testing individuals over the age of 65 with symptoms that have a prearranged appointment. It is not for unscheduled services. Revised and enhanced mutual aid agreements are being put into place with surrounding fire departments to ensure medical and fire response is appropriate during these challenging times. Mr. Rowley will later detail a scaled back plan for capital improvements that will go into effect effective March 24th, 2020 within the Water Department. I'd like to acknowledge the hard work of the Central Mass Regional Public Health Alliance. There's plenty of dividends and benefits that we're reaping through this enhanced partnership with the City of Worcester and 6 surrounding communities during this difficult public health event. Dr. Hirsch, Karen Clark, and their staff have been in contact with us several times per day, keeping us up to speed on their operations. They've been utilizing school nurses to support public health nurses in the tracking of positive cases and direct contacts. As you will see from tonight's meeting, we are preparing essential boards and committees to meet remotely and continue their very important work. During this time, town staff have had unprecedented support from the Board of Selectmen, State Representative Hannah Kane, Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito, Senator Michael Moore, and U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern. Congressman McGovern called today to remind us he is just a phone call away to provide what is needed for town operations and to provide updates on relief packages that he's working on in Washington. As Representative Kane has worked to pass critical legislation on the House floor, she has reached out to me to ensure legislation has all the necessary provisions to address Shrewsbury's unique needs. Her work on behalf of the town has led to specific provisions in various laws that will benefit our operations in all towns within the Commonwealth. Lieutenant Governor has regularly, despite the immense amount of work that she is doing for the Commonwealth, reached out to ensure the stand-up of the CVS testing site, review the town's planning efforts, and ensure that we know we have her support when it's needed. Earlier today, she explained a very detailed bill that her administration has worked on that was filed today regarding municipalities and their operations, including town and school, that will greatly benefit to the town. Finally, I'd like to thank Mark Serra at Shrewsbury Media Connection for making this and future live streams possible. Thank you to the residents for your outreach, contributions, and patience. Thank you to all the staff of the town of Shrewsbury. Thank you to the Board of Selectmen for your leadership in these times.
Thank you, Mr. Mizikar. I'd just like to add one thing, or actually 2 items. We obviously have to deal with how we're going to handle the annual town election and the annual town meeting. We've been waiting for guidance from the state on how we can proceed. And the state did pass legislation that allows these things to be postponed. Right now, we've had just broad discussions about this, but we will be addressing these 2 issues most likely at our meeting on April 14th. We have time to deal with them, and we wanted the manager and the staff to be able to deal on more immediate issues at this time. Our next order of business is to decide if we want to declare a state of emergency for the town of Shrewsbury. There are some advantages to this and reasons why we want to do it, and I will ask the manager to tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First and foremost, the declaration of the state of emergency would acknowledge just how serious this situation has become for our residents. Second, it provides authority from the Board of Selectmen to the town manager to take extraordinary but measured actions to facilitate and expedite the use of resources to protect our residents. Finally, it allows for certain extraordinary financial and procurement actions to facilitate the operation of the town.
Great, thank you. So board members, see if I get this right, but if anybody would like to comment, I'll just run down the list. Ms. Cassavant, do you have anything you'd like to add?
What type of, what are the benefits? And what kinds of things could we expect to see be expedited if we are to enact a state of emergency? So I want to make sure that it's not alarming residents thinking that the situation is worse than than what we currently know that it is. I don't want it to be something that's causing more anxiety. I want people to understand that it's more of a precautionary measure so that we're ready to act in a certain way if we need to.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mizikar, would you like to detail that out a little bit?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Ms. Cassavant's point, she is correct that these are more measures that would be utilized under a long-term scenario if the town has to continue to make extraordinary investments. If we have to further ramp up staffing and operations because members are out because they're ill, we have to hire additional staff. If we expend beyond current budgeted means, that's not something that we ever take lightly. This enables us to do that without prior approval of the state. It also enables us to really do things that we've been relying upon the state's state of emergency declaration to do so far, such as close public buildings to the public and drastically alter our staffing plan from which we, based upon how we currently are operating. So it's nothing that we need to do tomorrow, but should this linger on for quite some time, we will likely have to utilize various things to enable our operations.
Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Cassavant?
No, thank you. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear. I just want to be mindful of a headline in the paper that might say Shrewsbury declares state of emergency and then people having an increased level of anxiety as a response to that. I think it makes sense to do whatever that we can do, put in place the measures that we can right now to prepare for what I think is going to be a very long disruption in normalcy. So I would be in support of doing this if the manager believes it is the right decision for Shrewsbury. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. LeBeau, do you have any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chairman, but a couple comments. I'm entirely supportive of this motion, this measure. I think we need to have everything in place and have all contingencies covered. Having it in the hands of the manager greatly increases efficiency. Even if the board would call for an emergency meeting with less than 48 hours notice, we'd still have to wrangle 3 members up. Honestly, in these times, we can't be sure of much of anything. So I think by providing the manager with this authority, then the Town Manager Act actually allows the manager to appoint acting managers in the very unhoped event that we would ever have to get into anything like that. And this is largely an administrative action. States of emergency, I mean, obviously we're in a uncharted territory here and a worldwide issue, but we've called states of emergency just for big snowstorms. That's often done to position a community should there be any federal aid coming out. So people shouldn't be alarmed by the fact that the town of Shrewsbury is declaring a state of emergency. Certainly, the governor has made that very clear. The president has made that very clear. So I think this is a very prudent action, and I'm totally supportive.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kane, do you have anything?
We should do it.
Thank you. Succinct and to the point. I agree. I was trying to organize myself here. It's a little different doing a meeting this way, and I may have missed it, but if Mr. Mizikar did say it, I apologize. But in a lot of occasions when a state of emergency is declared and local communities do so also, it makes the communities eligible for certain reimbursements for emergency responses that are necessary. So I'm also in favor of it. So having said that, Mr. Mizikar, do you have anything else you want to add?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So could I have a motion then to declare a local state of emergency for the town of Shrewsbury?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, Ms. Cassavant, roll call vote.
Aye.
Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo, aye. Okay, so voted. Our next order of business is to vote to authorize remote participation in a public meeting. We need to take this vote, which is really to confirm what we've done. I would entertain a motion to authorize public bodies in the town of Shrewsbury to engage in remote participation in public meetings in accordance with applicable law.
So moved.
Mr. LeBeau?
Second. Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor, aye. Mr. Cassavant,
Aye.
Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. Kane,
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo, aye. Thank you. Okay, our next order of business is a public hearing with Victor D. Voliria, owner of iCar Auto, Inc., 306 Boston Turnpike for a Class 2 license. Is the applicant online, do we know? I can't tell who is online, and I don't, I'm not familiar with this laptop, so does anybody know if anyone is, if the gentleman is out there? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any unrecognized numbers. If someone needs to speak, they need to unmute their mic and please talk if someone's here for iCar.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yeah.
there's agenda item number 8 for Mr. Rowley as well. Just to
Oh,
make sure.
I'm sorry. You're right. Okay, well, seeing we opened the public hearing, could I have a motion to continue this until a time on April 14th? The gentleman just might not be familiar with the process that we have to go through right now.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue the hearing till October, April 14th. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Rowley, you are on the agenda. You were kind enough to participate and prepare a report for us. I had asked if this report could be prepared a couple of weeks ago before all of this happened, but Mr. Rowley put a lot of work into it and thought it would be appropriate for him to be able to tell the public where we stand with the flushing of the water system and getting it cleaned up. So Mr. Rowley, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have developed a letter to the board, which I thought I would present, and then I was hoping to put that online in one form or another in the future. And just a means of testing this medium for other folks that are presenting, and you'll be able to just read along as I read the letter, if that's okay.
Sure, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did you hear me? Yes, fine.
Okay, 1 second here. I will attempt to present. All right. Are you able to see the letter?
I cannot see it on the screen, but I would proceed anyways.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Well, I practiced this the other day. I assure everyone with Val, and it just didn't seem to work. But let me read this. And I will we'll put this up, this information up on the website for everyone. So this is a letter. This letter has been prepared to update the Board of Selectmen on the progress of the unidirectional flushing program since it was initially presented at your October 8, 2019 meeting. To better maintain our water distribution systems, a little background, and improve water quality, the town of Shrewsbury engaged engineering firm Tate & Howard to develop a unidirectional flushing program. Developing the program was the first step in formally adopting the process, which has been proven to be very effective in other communities. This engineered program focuses on isolating small sections of water main, which are flushed systematically, starting at a clean source such as the storage tank or the water treatment plant, and the mains are sequentially flushed outwardly. The town's water distribution system is divided into 12 sections for flushing, each having between 36 and 138 sequences or sections of water main to flush. Utilizing funds secured at the 2019 Fall Special Town Meeting, the Water and Sewer Division entered into a contract with Hydrotech of Sterling, Massachusetts for unidirectional flushing services. Once the procurement process was complete, Hydrotech started unidirectional flushing in early December. The current contract includes 4 sections to be flushed, which were selected based on water quality calls received by the department in past years. As weather permitted, Hydrotech continued working through the winter. A leader in the water industry, Hydrotech's systematic approach to the project has been very beneficial to the progress of the flushing. They have 2 crews working. The first crew locates the valves to be closed for the flushing sequence and cleans and then exercises them to confirm they can be used for the flushing program. The second crew performs unidirectional flushing following the program. During the flushing process, the static and residual pressure is measured as well as the volume of water used. This information is important to allow the town to ensure the water distribution system is functioning correctly. The progress to date. Since the beginning of December, Hydrotech has completed all of one section and 40% of the second section. The first section completed was Zone 5, as identified on our map, which I hope to put up, and is comprised of 18 miles of water main and 144 gates that were exercised. This section included a portion of Gulf Street, the Wachusett Ave area, the Planets, and a section of Spring Street and the adjoining streets. Unidirectional flushing of the second section, Zone 7, is currently in progress and consists of 16 miles of water main and 182 valves that will be cleaned and exercised. This includes a portion of Main Street between Maple Ave and Monadnock Drive, including adjacent streets, the area on Maple Avenue from Main Street to Rosedale Avenue, and Grafton Street from Main Street to Stony Brook Lane. The other 2 sections that will be unidirectionally flushed as part of the initial contract are Zone 6 and 8. Since all these zones are in the high pressure section of the water system, they are being flushed using the Masonic tanks. Properly functioning valves are a key asset to our water distribution system, and cleaning and exercising them on a regular basis is essential maintenance. During this program, Hydrotech identified a valve at the intersection of Spring Street and Holman Street that was on the verge of failure. Through this proactive and another that was closed completely, resulting in reduced water supply to Spring Terrace. Through this proactive maintenance program, we've been able to replace the valve on Spring Street before it failed and restore normal water pressure on Spring Terrace by opening the improperly closed valve. As the program progresses, we anticipate identifying and addressing additional valves that have the potential to fail. The contract with Hydrotech includes replacing up to 10% of the existing gate valves based on the lack of valve exercising and maintenance in the past. Recently, a valve failed suddenly while being closed during the flushing process at the intersection of Grafton Street and Raymond Avenue. Fortunately, crews were on site and could isolate the area immediately and make the necessary repairs. Properly functioning valves are essential for the unidirectional flushing program and are critical in the event of a water main break. We have received feedback from our residents that this program has improved water quality. We have seen the greatest benefits in flushing mains that are dead ends, such as streets with cul-de-sacs. Hydrotech has reported that the mains that unidirectionally flushed in Zone 7 have removed the most manganese. They also mentioned that they are flushing each sequence longer than expected in the plan developed by Tata and Howard, which is typical of the first time using this program. Overall, we've seen a reduction in discolored water calls throughout town. Since the flushing started from a tank, the lines are clearing up nicely, and we have only had 1 discolored water issue. Through the use of social media and news flash on the town's website, we have provided advance notification of the areas being flushed so residents are aware of the work taking place. Our future flushing plans. The unidirectional flushing program is currently paused through April 7th as everyone works to limit the spread of COVID-19. The suspension was done because anytime maintenance is performed on the water distribution system, there is an inherent risk of causing an unexpected failure with a valve or section of water main. These repairs require water service to be discontinued in an impacted area to allow for repairs to be completed and, on occasion, for our staff to enter a home or business, which we are working to avoid unless there is an emergency during these difficult times. Once concerns regarding COVID-19 have subsided, Hydrotech will continue with valve exercising and unidirectional flushing. We hope to complete the remaining sequences in the contract before the demand for water increases as summer approaches. I will provide future updates as the program continues.
Thank you, Mr. Rowley. It was a good, complete report. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Rowley? Mr. Howland, do you have anything that you want to add?
No, I think Dan did an excellent report.
Great, thank you. Okay,
Mr.
we'll move
Chairman?
on. I'm sorry?
I had a comment for Mr. Rowley.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for your effort on this and for the report, but also to say that I have noticed a decrease in the amount of people contacting me directly, asking for help with water that's been discolored. And so I'm thinking that it has something to do with unidirectional flushing, because I do know that some of the addresses are in the zones that you just talked about. I also want to commend you on the communication. I'm subscribed to the notifications from the water department, and I felt like they were timely. I was getting them pretty much daily for different sections of town, and I didn't see a whole lot of chatter on social media about people being surprised that they didn't have water or that water was work was being done in their area. So nicely done. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Okay, my next order of business is a meeting with Mark Donahue to review and discuss potential town meeting warrant article for a zoning map change related to 160 Holden Street, which is the property that most of us know as Worcester Sand and Gravel. Mr. Donahue, are you prepared?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening. Please proceed.
Thank you. Let's see if I can pull this off and present a plan on a screen as I speak. Hopefully you might be able to see that plan.
It is up, Mr. Donahue. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mark Donahue from Fletcher Tilton on behalf of 160 Holden Street LLC, which, as the chair indicated, is the purchaser of the land that the town probably knows most familiarly as the Worcester Sand and Gravel site. The site is identified, probably most importantly, by the plan that you have in front of you. It is located north of Holden Street and has essentially two separate nodes of large tracts divided by, in general, Clinton Street. There are other intervening properties, but it's best to understand that that's where they are. The westerly tract, which is currently undeveloped, is currently in the limited industrial zoning district. It is undeveloped, and it would most likely be for our client to be phase 2 of the development. It is the easterly side of the tract of Clinton Street, the tract that in the southerly portion of the site closest to Holden Street is the current operation of Worcester Sand and Gravel. That is the site that is currently zoned in the commercial business zone predominantly, in which we desire to have become part of instead of the limited industrial zoning district. 160 Holden Street LLC is a wholly owned subsidiary of GFI Partners. GFA Partners is a vertically integrated development company. It acquires property from investment to permitting to construction to lease up stabilization. It has a history through its principal, Stephen Goodman, of owning more than 15 million square feet of industrial property, and has been involved in better than $1.5 billion worth of real estate investment in Mr. Goodman's career. And there are any number of properties that we can point you to in Worcester County by way of example that they have successfully taken from undeveloped property or underutilized property and to turn it into more appropriately develop property in that fashion. So the property in question is currently in the commercial business zoning district. There are any number of uses that the property would seem to be more appropriate for than the commercial business zone. By way of example, and as set forth in my letter to you of March 16th, we gave some examples of uses that are not permitted in the commercial business zone, but which would be in general appropriate for the site, obviously based upon final design of the site and determination of what was going to be put there. By way of example, basic and applied research and development in computer and instrumentation is prohibited as a use in the commercial business zone, but would be permitted with the appropriate permits in the limited industrial. Manufacturing enterprises, parcel distribution centers and wholesale distribution plants, research laboratories, warehousing and distribution. And because the site has such appropriate proximity to the interstate, many of these uses we believe can be demonstrated with appropriate design to be appropriate for the use of the site in that fashion. My client only acquired the property in the last couple of months. Their planning is therefore at a very early phase. We don't have any plans in any fashion, but obviously being able to zone the property appropriately is a key component. We are aware, and it reflects on the plan that is before you, that the town has immediately abutting the site. And as you can see on the far easterly side of the site, kind of a small pork chop kind of lot located there. Those are 2 town wells in those areas. And we have had specific discussion with the manager and with Ms. Lass as to the town's interest in acquiring additional protection from the property to protect the wellhead of each of those. We're committed, as I said in the March 16th letter, to work with the manager and the town to be able to figure out a way, either through fee ownership or other restriction, to provide additional wellhead protection in that area, while also being able to confirm that it will not preclude appropriate development of the site in the long run. So that's going to take some additional work, but we're committed to it. We stated that commitment in a meeting with Mr. Mizikar, and I confirm it here in your public hearing to move forward. So for those purposes, what we are respectfully requesting is that the Board of Selectmen include in the 2020 annual town meeting warrant to rezone the commercial business property you see on the plan in front of you from the commercial business zone to the limited industrial zone. And I'd be glad to answer any particular questions that the board may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Donahue. Members of the board, I'll ask if there are any questions. Ms. Cassavant?
Just one quick question. Would a marijuana grow facility be able to be located with a zoning change?
Let me see if I have the zoning bylaw. I don't know.
Mr. Mizikar or Ms. Glass, do you know if that would be allowed in that zone?
Ms. Cassavant, I can tell you that it is part of, you asked for cultivation, I believe, and we are seeking to include this area within allowing these zoning districts in this area, regardless of which option, if it would proceed or remain under current, to be included in that, for establishments to be an allowable use in that district.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. LeBeau, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do have a question, please. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Donahue. I'm not able to access the presentation. I have before me your letter up to the board dated March 16th, and there's a map that accompanies that of the area.
Yes, it is, sir.
I'm wondering if you could help me understand exactly what this map is telling me. Where are the exact locations at which the zone change is being sought? I mean, I see green, I see pink, I see a yellow perimeter line, and I confess I'm a little confused.
Let me do my best. And if if there's any challenge to this methodology, it's going to be this. So essentially, the pink reflects the commercial business zoning district. The green is a different zoning district. I believe it's residential, but I don't have it here. And I believe the blue to the map right or east is also a residential zoning district. So it is essentially and the yellow reflects the property lines of the largest piece of property involved. And by the largest, that's the tract that, as you can see from the lines, actually leaves, you might be able to see, you can see it in the presentation, actually includes other land that's not in the commercial business zone. That tract, according to the assessor's records, is approximately 113 acres. My client has acquired some of the property that is also in the pinkish color that is there. I can see if I can pull it back up for the benefit of the viewing audience. Come up.
Yes, it is up.
Right. I don't know if my cursor reflects, but if it does, I'm showing an area that's in the rectangular area. Some of it is greenish and some of it lavender on this plan as it appears on my screen. Some of those individual lots are also in the commercial business zone and are owned by my client. Those are included in it. So in core question to Mr. LeBeau's inquiry, it is the land that's within the yellow or the land that is north of Holden Street and easterly of Clinton Street that appears in either the pink of my letter or the lavender of the assessor's plan that we seek to change in its totality to limited industrial zone.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Donahue, thank you very much. That explains what I needed to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kane, do you have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, just a simple observation. First, I'm supportive of it. The company does in fact have a track record of delivering high quality projects. I just simply observe how difficult it is going to be to provide adequate information to people, members of town meeting or neighbors, given the current situation. And I don't know what levels of extraordinary efforts people will make due to either mass mailings or some level of extraordinary effort to ensure people actually get aware of this beyond whatever they're seeing on TV, etc. My fear is that I've been told by people with many more years of experience than myself that when people are not feeling particularly fully informed, that they simply vote no. And I think this is a missed opportunity unless we go to extraordinary efforts to ensure people have enough information so they're comfortable voting yes. So I'm supportive, a simple concern, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Well, that will, I agree with you. We're going to have difficulty going through these types of hearings and processes, and we're going to have to take these things as they come up. Obviously, the applicant is going to have the burden to make sure that the information gets out to the public, and we'll have to see how it goes. If we get to the point, we're not signing the warrant this evening. It's not on the agenda. It'll be at least the middle of April. If we're not comfortable with having this move forward because we can't get the information out or the processes aren't working, we can always decide not to put it on the warrant and ask the applicant to bring it back at a later date, possibly in the fall, when hopefully the situation will be much different than it is right now. Mr. Mizikar, Ms. Loss, do you have any comments that you'd like to make on this?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just make one brief comment that I wanted to ensure the board, as we previously communicated, that Mr. Donahue and his client, Mr. Goodman, have agreed to fully work with us, and we've sat down on several occasions to outline what our needs are related to our public drinking water wellheads in that area. And I'm confident that given their development expertise and our clear needs, that we should be able to find a solution to go along with this development.
Thank you. Ms. Floss, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just would like to note that we have prepped the town planner that this project may be coming to the planning board public hearings for the May town meeting. The town planner has set in on some of the meetings related to this development. We've also asked and worked with the developer to work with their neighbors to let them be aware of the potential rezoning effort. So I think that addresses some of Mr. Kane's questions. So we understand it will be difficult to proceed, but we are preparing the planning board to have effective public hearings in April and May leading up to a town meeting for any zoning article that is proposed for the warrant.
Okay, thank you. I would add that I think several of us had discussion with the new owner and the previous owners when the sale was going through, and I know that they got the message loud and clear that that area for water protection, protection of our wells was very, very important. And they have committed to working with us if their projects move forward. I would say that if some of us remember going back a few years when I believe it was a shopping mall that was proposed there, there was a lot of discussion about the wells and how to protect the protect the aquifer. And at that time, the developer at that time was able to come up with a plan to do that. And I would imagine the technology has only changed since then. So this could be a good opportunity for us not only to increase the industrial base, but also to protect the aquifer and give us a stronger control over that section. So I agree with Mr. Kane. It's going to be a difficult slog, but getting information out. But I think it's worth looking at to move forward. What I would, I guess, request is the sense of the board. The next logical step for this in the process would be to us to refer this to the planning board for their review. And I would like to ask the board what they would like to do on that. So I'll do that by polling the members again. Mrs. Cassavant?
I'm fine moving it to the planning board.
Thank you. Mr. LeBeau?
Likewise.
Mr. Kane?
It should be moved forward.
Thank you. And I also agree. Does this require a vote, Mr. Mizikar, or can we just agree to send it on to the planning board?
We can administratively move it to the planning board, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. So unless anybody else has any comments, we'll ask the manager and the planner to bring this to the planning board. Mr. Donahue, do you have anything else you want to add before we leave this topic?
Just one thing, Mr. Chairman, thank you. To Mr. Kane's point, which is a good one, we were planning prior to town meeting and all events to be making a mailing to all town meeting members in support of the warrant article moving forward. Based upon your comments, I think that they are well-founded. We may move it up and actually do an earlier mailing to town meeting members to give them some information ahead of the planning board meeting, so that hopefully they'll be able to become aware of it in that process also.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Kane.
might I also ask that the proponent consider an aggressive outreach through the mail or other appropriate methods of the neighbors in the area, because rumors have a way of grabbing hold and then stampeding over any other efforts.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as Ms. Loss indicated, we have reached out to the other property owners who have property in the commercial business zone, asking if they want to include their properties. We've heard, I've heard from 2 of those people, have not been able to touch base with them as I only have phone numbers and have left messages. But we were checking with them, and member Kane makes a fine point to reach out to the larger neighborhood as we start to move into the hearing, and it appears that we'll be limited to some extent to doing, instead of public meetings, which we would generally have, we'll start thinking about mailings.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else before we move on to our next item of business? Okay, thank you, Mr. Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
I'm sure we'll be seeing you online in the future, if not in person. Okay, our next item on the agenda is a meeting with Richard Ricker, who's an attorney for an applicant who would like to bring a warrant article to the town meeting for a zoning map change related to 59 Cherry Street. Mr. Ricker, are you here?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for taking the time. If I can bring up the maps. I also want to thank Valerie for the tutorial she gave me, because I'm a novice at this stuff, to say the least. This is a request for a zone change, for a zoning map amendment on behalf of Gold Street Nominee Trust and Brendan Properties 1 LLC. My name is Richard Ricker, and I'm an attorney representing the proponents. These are properties off of Boston Turnpike and Cherry Street. This is a map which shows the existing zoning at that site. You can see from the lines here that the commercial business line runs. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it runs along here. There is a little triangle of limited industrial land here, which I think is left over from a previous zone change.
Mr. Ricker?
Yes.
We're unable to see the fluid movement of your cursor, so if you could just be a little bit more descriptive, I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mizikar. You can see, can you see the red outline on the map?
Yes,
yes, it's visible.
Okay, that shows the existing zone lines. As you can see, 59 and 59R and 658 are presently in the commercial business zone. This property was originally permitted as over 55 senior housing in around 2006. And since then, the zoning has changed, or was changed, and the permits for the development did expire. The development was known as Adams Farm 2, owned by the same owners as the original Adams Farm 1, them being Gold Street Nominee Trust. What they're asking for here is to rezone the area that is shown as parcel 59 within the commercial business zone, 59R and 658 into the limited commercial business district. Within that district, the only housing allowed is the senior housing. There's no other housing allowed. The senior housing, over 55 housing, whatever you want to call it, is according to the zoning ordinance allowed by special permit. It also needs a special permit by the planning board. The property being presently zoned commercial is a problem for a couple of reasons. One is, and let me get to another map. This is the topography map. And I think I may have James Tatro on the phone here. I'm not sure if we have him, but I had asked him to call in.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr.
This, and James, if
Mr.
you're
Ricker,
there, you could correct me. This
Mr. Ricker.
shows the topography up at Boston Turnpike, an elevation of 548, and just inside the property, about 200 feet, 225 feet southerly of Route 9, it drops down 30 feet. As you all know, that also is a very busy and kind of tough section of Route 9. And as I suggested in my correspondence to the board, I suggested that it will be very difficult, if almost impossible, to get a potential curb cut at that site. Never mind traverse that topography, get around that wetland that is shown to the west of the property and on the westerly portion of the property to get down to where you could put some sort of buildings. In addition, the property fronts down on Cherry Street. The zoning at that end of the property is Residence A zone. According to our bylaw, you're not allowed to enter and exit from a commercial use over residentially zoned real estate, residentially zoned property. So the reason for this proposal is to allow over 55 housing again. There is a plan that I did submit to you, the concept plan, which is right here. This plan would call for 20 duplexes, therefore 40 units of senior housing. It would be deed restricted senior housing, obviously, subject to the inclusionary zoning requirements of the town of Shrewsbury as well. It's only intended, this proposal is only intended to do senior housing, as I suggested, as it was permitted before. They're asking to return it to that. The process that we've asked you to place it on the warrant. I understand that there may be some misgivings of moving this thing too quickly, and in light of notifications and publicity and the need to have plenty of input about this. Obviously, we would ask you to consider, if you don't want to put it on the warrant, then obviously we would ask you to consider, in accordance with the guidelines for a zoning map change published by the town of Shrewsbury, to place it or to submit it to the planning board for them to review it, and then for it to move through the process as shown on the zoning map amendment process, which is published by the town. If there is no other questions, in a nutshell, that's basically what we're asking for.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ricker. You had introduced another gentleman who was not on our list. Is he going to be speaking, or?
If I could ask him, James, is there anything that you'd like to add? This is James Tatro from Thompson and Liston. He is the engineer for this particular project.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would like to add is that I think Mr. Ricker's representation was in all other facets correct, but actually in regard to the grade, you have a 30-foot drop in actually just over 100 feet going off of Route 9 into this property. It's while the property is zoned commercial business, it would be extremely difficult to make use of that Route 9 access. And if you're going to have, as Mr. Ricker says, a commercial use through the Residence A side is not really possible. So it's part of the reason this property has not been developed before, except for the attempt at the over 55, is the difficulty of access.
Yeah, okay.
Just for your reference, I also just put up the proposed zoning map, which shows the limited commercial business line around these three parcels on the map.
Okay,
Now,
me
I
ask-
do note that there is a small, to the westerly portion of this property, there appears to be a leftover parcel that is zoned limited industrial. And it seems to be isolated and perhaps was just overlooked in a previous map change. So I think that if you were to send us to the planning board, that, along with other changes that the planning board may want to make, would be an appropriate change.
Okay, let me just ask you for clarification. So, you're saying that limited commercial business is allowed to have access over residentially zoned properties where commercial business is not?
No, I'm saying that if we used it for a housing use, I think we would be able to do that.
For a housing use?
Yes.
Okay, and that's why and the reason that you're using the limited commercial business is because it's restricted only to 55 and over or senior housing?
Yes, I'm referring specifically to the table 1 of the use regulation schedule of the zoning ordinance, which says that in the limited commercial business zone, senior housing is permitted by special permit. It also requires a second special permit by the planning board.
Okay. Okay. I'm opening up the questions from the board. Ms. Cassavant, do you have any comments or questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. LeBeau?
Not right now, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kane?
Mr. Chairman, I have the same observation, except this proposal is much more complicated and overshadowed by the current funding difficulties for the school department and the legitimate policy questions on whether over 55 housing actually feeds or doesn't feed the student population. So far be it from me to tell a proponent that I think he's doing something in which he's walking into a brick wall. That's up to him to take it forward. I'm not going to stand in his way. But I think the challenge to fully explain this project, the positives and the potential downfalls, are just made that much more difficult by this climate than they would be at a fall or future town meeting.
Okay, thank you. I agree with you. This is a relatively new proposal that's come to us, even though it had been approved back in 2006. I have concerns that we're going to have enough time between the planning board, the finance committee, our boards, to really vet this well before we got to a town meeting. And that's my major concern. I think it would make more sense if the applicant chose to delay and come back in the fall when we usually do have a special town meeting. I do think it's complicated, so I'd agree with you. So, Mr. Ricker, what is your feeling on that? It's your application. Mr. Ricker, are you still there?
Mr. Chairman, it does look like he left the meeting for some reason. So I imagine he'll be back.
Okay. Let's just give him a chance to get back online. He might have inadvertently logged himself out. So we'll just jump down to our next order of business. At 7:40, continued public hearing with Keith Lindham of 81 Clinton Pub LLC. The applicant has asked that we continue that because they are not ready at the present time. So I would entertain a motion to continue the hearing through April 14th, if the board's so inclined.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, motion is second. Is there any further comment? Okay, there being none, we need a voice vote. Ms. Cassavant,
Aye.
Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. Kane,
Aye.
Mrs. Apollo, aye. Okay, we'll move that to April 14th. Mr. Ricco, welcome back.
Yes, thank you. I don't know, I got bumped off of there somehow.
Okay, I don't know what you missed, but
Well, I heard you, if I could, Mr. Chairman, telling me that this may be better vetted if we were to go to the fall town meeting with it and take the time to go through the full process. Not knowing whether or not the town meeting as presently scheduled will be postponed, as I presume it will be. I'm not sure. That obviously is your call. It seems to me that if you were to refer this to the planning board, then that would start the vetting process in any event, as called for in the zoning map amendment process as outlined by the process shown on your website. So it's obviously your prerogative. We'll do whatever you want us to do.
okay, thank you. Members of the board, any thoughts on that? Ms. Cassavant?
So I had a difficult time following along, looking at the presentation, and so I can only imagine that that would be challenging to do from these kinds of remote meetings. I think my preference right now is to wait until the fall, just given the situation that we're faced with right now and the complexity of this proposal. I think it would make sense also to make sure that we have enough time for people who maybe are abutting the property to have that opportunity to weigh in on their opinion as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. LeBeau?
I would be in agreement with Selectman Cassavant's sentiments.
Okay. Mr. Kane?
I also agree.
Okay. Just so I'm clear, are we saying that it would be better for the applicant to pull this now and come back later on, or completely, or is there sentiment to allow it to go to the planning board, to refer it to the planning board now and let it work its way through the process? Anybody have any comments, Mr. Cassavant?
That would be what we'd be asking for, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Any board members have any comments on that?
So if
I
it were
thought
to
we
go,
just said no, thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Cassavant.
Oh, whatever.
I am in favor of holding off right now and not moving this to the
Yeah.
planning board at this time.
Okay. Mr. LeBeau, I'm sorry, I don't know if you commented on that specifically.
Well, I initially said that I agreed with Selectman Cassavant's sentiments. As she mentioned, this is quite a complicated proposal. I'm a little, I mean, we're certainly trying to conduct business in a normal fashion, quote unquote normal, but I do think we should be considerate of how much while we're figuring out this remote access means of conducting meetings, we want to be fair to applicants and we want to be fair to the public. And I am not comfortable tonight with advancing this project to the planning board.
Okay, thank you. So then my sense of the board is that the intention is not to move it to the planning board at this time. Mr. Ricca, are you still there?
Yep, I understand.
Okay. Who knows what's going to happen going forward? But I think you've heard the board wants to wait. So I would advise your client that at this time, that is what is going to happen. Okay.
That's fine. That's fine. We understand and we thank you for your time. Members of the board, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Again, Valerie, thank you for the tutorial. I needed it. So
Okay.
I'll take it back. I'll take it back to the client and tell them that there's a need to regroup and see whether we can do something as you're suggesting. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Night.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, move on to our next order of business. Item 13 is to review and act on the appointment of one associate member to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a one-year term to expire on March 31st, 2021. This particular appointment was to fill a vacancy that was created when one of the alternates just had scheduling conflicts and could no longer serve in that capacity. My understanding is some members really haven't had a chance to speak with some of these applicants and would prefer to wait until our next meeting. Is that correct? Ms. Castavant?
Yes, I also wanted to just say that I think we have two members as alternates, and so I think putting this off right now isn't going to leave the zoning board in a precarious situation if they are able to start meeting. I would like to have the opportunity to maybe reach out to some of the people that have put in letters of interest and get a little bit more information from them. So I do think right now, given the situation that we're all dealing with, it is prudent to wait.
Okay, thank you. Mr. LeBeau?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I agree with Selectman Cassavant. Again, it's a 5-member board. We have 5. We expect to have 5 members by the end of this evening, I believe, for their next term. We have 2 out of 3 associates that we may be reappointing tonight. I just don't see, certainly we need to get an associate member, but I have not had a moment to really consider these applicants or speak to these applicants. And where I differ from your suggestion is I don't see the need to put this on to our next meeting. I think we just put this on hold for a little bit and see how things develop.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kane?
I agree.
Okay, then we'll just not act on this evening and put it on as a future item, so we remember to do it. Okay. The next order of business is to review and act on the reappointment of Paul George, 20 Rice Street, Mary Beth Lynch, 21 Westwood Road, and Peter Mulcahy, 4 Richard Avenue as members of the Zoning Board of Appeals for 2-year term set to expire on March 31st, 2022. Is there any discussion? Again, we'll just go down in order. Mrs. Cassavant?
No discussion.
Mr. LeBeau?
Sorry, had a little trouble with the mute button. I have, and only to tell you, I have nothing to comment at this moment.
Okay, Mr. Kane?
I agree.
Okay, so then I would entertain a motion to make those appointments as I indicated.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, okay, this require any further discussion? Okay, there being none, it's a roll call vote again. Ms. Cassavant?
Aye.
Mr. LeBeau?
aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo? Aye. Okay, so we'll get the letters out to those folks this week. Item 15 is to review and act on the reappointment of Kevin Byrne, 22 Elmer Circle, and Matthew Armenti, 386 Lake Street, as associate members to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 1-year term to expire on March 31st. Could I have a motion to that effect, or if there's any discussion, please let me know.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion in a second. Again, a roll call vote. Ms. Cassavant,
Aye.
Mr. LeBeau, Mr. LeBeau, Mr. LeBeau.
Aye,
Um,
I said
okay,
aye.
it didn't come through on my end. Mr. Kane
Aye.
and Mr. DiPaolo, aye. Okay. Our next
Mr. Chairman.
order, excuse me?
May I make a comment before we move off this item?
Sure.
I mean, I just, I think under present circumstances, continuity of operations is essential. And I don't think this is the greatest time in the world to be bringing new people onto a public body unless there's a very meaningful and serious reason to do it. So I'm fully supportive of reappointing these members, and that also feeds my reasoning for not moving forward. I don't think it's fair to put a new member on a board in current circumstances, unless there are particular and special circumstances.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next order of business is to review and act to sign the Green Communities 2020 grant application. Ms. Last, can you tell us what I know what we're applying for, but what the projects are that are on this application?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As many of you are aware, we applied to become a green community and were designated December of 2018. We were then awarded $183,000 to work on a set number of projects, which we completed and had an inspection and we're signed off on. So we're very appreciative of that. We're now eligible to apply for competitive grants related to the Green Communities grant funding schedule for calendar year 2020. The original grant was due March 27th of 2020, but with the circumstances has been extended to May 1st. However, we felt that it was prudent that we had this on your agenda this evening in case things were to further escalate, that we would have your review and hopefully approval. Mr. Baldinger, the division manager of the Public Facilities Division for the town of Shrewsbury, has prepared a memo dated March 18th related to the request for funding for particular projects for the calendar year 2020. It is the replacement of 8 rooftop HVAC units at Parker Road Preschool, approximately $130,000, which are currently well beyond their useful life and would be upgraded to new high efficiency units. The replacement of 54 metal halide light fixtures at the Shrewsbury High School field house with new LED fixtures, which is approximately $28,000. The retrofit of 16 250W quartz lights at the Shrewsbury High School Commons area with new LED bulbs, approximately $6,500. The 2 high school projects have an estimated cost savings of $17,000. The replacement of 24 metal halide fixtures at Floral Street Elementary School with new LED fixtures, which has an approximate value of $7,035 and a savings of $3,038 per year in electric. Replacement of 41 fluorescent fixtures at Oak Middle School with new LED fixtures, an approximate value of $12,835 and a savings of $4,400 per year in electrical savings. And finally, a building operator certificate level 2 training and exam for the building's division manager, valued at $2,150. The building division manager, Mr. Baldinger, successfully completed the level 1 training with this past round's grant funding. So that is a grand total of $186,520. We're currently working with our auditing firms to reflect those changes.
Okay, thank you. So the action here would be to vote to authorize the board to sign the certificate on the application.
Yes, so the board to authorize the chairman to sign the certificate of application. It's to be signed by the chief executive officer of the town of Shrewsbury.
Okay, thank you.
That's you, Mo, isn't it?
Um, at the moment, I think. Is there any discussion on this? Does anybody want to discuss it? Mr. Castavant?
I have no discussion.
Thank you. Mr. LeBeau
I am all set, Mr. Chairman.
and Mr. Kane?
Mr. Chairman, in all honesty, great work by the staff, and don't forget, you were the one that grabbed this out of the waste paper basket and pushed it forward. Great work by yourself.
Well, thank you, but it was a team effort, so it looks like it's working out well, so that's good. Okay, then I would entertain a motion. Or do we have a motion? I'm sorry.
No, I haven't made the motion yet.
Okay. Would you like to?
Sure. I would make a motion to authorize the chairman to sign the Green Communities 2020 grant application.
Second,
Okay, this again requires a roll call vote. Mr. Castavant,
Aye.
Mr. LeBeau,
aye.
Mr. Kane,
Hi.
Mr. DiPaolo, aye. Okay, thank you. Next order of business is to review and act on a 3-month extension request from PharmaCann relative to the 9C of the executed host community agreement for their marijuana facility. Mr. Mizikar had sent us out a video of the work being done on the site. So something is happening. The PharmaCann purchased the property for quite a sizable sum. At least I thought it was a lot of money. You could see last week driving by, you could see into the building that people were working. So obviously they pulled a permit. They are finally making progress. So Mr. Mizikar, do you have anything that you want to add at this point?
Nothing further, but from my viewing of the video and conversation, I would recommend the board extend the host community agreement for 3 additional months.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, Mr. Castavant?
I took a couple of minutes today to look through the virtual tour that PharmaCann sent. I mean, it's a little bit hard to tell if they're moving along in the right direction. I would like Mr. Mizikar just to let me know what he thinks.
So I too have only been able to view the virtual tour. I have not been out on site. The last time we extended this was in the beginning of December, and they had yet to pull permits, et cetera. So I do see measured progress and certainly sufficient progress to merit retaining them, in the primary seat to get the next license and final license within the community.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any comments or questions, Mr. LeBeau?
All set, Mr. Chairman. Oh, Mr. Chairman, forgive me. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have to recuse myself from this issue to avoid a conflict. So if there's a vote, I won't be participating in a motion second or vote.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kane, any comments, questions?
No, I trust the manager's monitoring of their progress on this. And when a motion is made, I stand ready to second it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kane. So could I have a motion, please, to extend the agreement for 3 months?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, good job, Mr. Kane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, again, roll call vote. Mr. Castavant,
Aye.
Mr. Kane,
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo, aye. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would like the minutes to reflect that I recused myself to avoid a potential conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Mizikar, we're all set on this, right?
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, our next order of business is to review and act on the partial road closure request from Jeff Highland, DPW Director for Walnut Street from Main Circle to the north intersection of Holando Drive from sometime in mid-April to late May. Mr. Howland, I think you've been sitting there patiently. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. If you'd like to comment on this, tell us.
Sure. Good evening. As part of our remainder of FY20 water main replacement, we are replacing the water main from Main Circle, which they did some work last week in replacing the valves at the intersection of Main Circle and Walnut Street. But we're going to be replacing the main in Walnut Street from Main Circle down to Holando. That water main is a 6-inch cast iron water main that's over 55 years old, which the water department has experienced several water main breaks along that road, along that section, mainly down near the Holando section. The road is very narrow, and the contractor is requested to have a road closure during normal working hours of 7 to 4 o'clock-ish. We anticipated originally that we would start in April, mid-April. However, as effective tomorrow, we have suspended the work of Halledge Water due to the COVID-19 until further notice, probably until at least April 7th. So he does have several services still remaining on Main Street and several connections to some of the cross streets on Main Street. And then he would go to Walnut Street. So it'd be sometime in April, hopefully, or first part of May. We have talked to the school department about busing, and we would do the same process that we had on Francis Ave, in which buses would, we would close the road, but still open to buses and obviously public safety. Contractor's okay with that.
Okay, thank you. So do you need a vote to allow you to close the road?
Yes.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments regarding this? Ms. Cassavant?
No, I'm all set.
Mr. LeBeau?
No,
Mr. Kane?
I think it's a reasonable and appropriate step. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So I would entertain a motion to allow the road closure per Mr. Howland's request.
So moved.
second,
Okay, this requires a roll call vote. Ms. Cassavant?
Aye.
Mr. LeBeau?
aye,
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo? Aye. Okay, thank you, Mr. Howland.
Thank you.
Okay, next, I believe we just have correspondence, correct? Anybody? We're on item 19. Is that right? I didn't-
Agree, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so item 19 is an email dated March 6th from State Representative Hannah Kane regarding the transportation bond bill update. So noted. Item 20 is an email dated March 12th, 2020 from Representative Hannah Kane regarding an update on COVID-19 state actions and the Baker-Polito administration announcing an emergency order modifying the state's open meeting law. So noted. Item 21 is an email dated March 15th, 2020 from Joseph Sawyer, school superintendent, regarding the extended school closure message. And I would note, if people want any further information on the schools, to go to the school page on the town website, and also sign up for the feed, the listserv from the school department. Item 22 is a letter dated March 16th, 2020 from Jeff Howland, DPW Director, regarding the Pavement Management Program 2019. Mr. Howland, is there anything you'd like to tell us about this while you're here?
Actually, I'll be submitting probably for your April 14th meeting, a follow-up, as I did last year, of the next 4-year pavement management plan that we're looking at, and I'd like to talk to you about it at that point.
Okay, thank you. Item 23 is an email dated March 16th from State Representative Hannah Kane regarding the town governance legislation. So noted. Item 24 is a letter dated March 18th, 2020 from State Representative Hannah Kane regarding House 4572, which is an act to address the challenges in town governance resulting from COVID-19. So noted. Item 25 is an email dated March 19th from State Representative Hannah Kane regarding House 4928, an act relative to election emergencies. I just want to comment that the representative has been very, very active and worked very hard to make sure that to work with fellow legislators to get this stuff passed quickly. It really was needed legislation, and it's going to be a big help to us as we move forward. Item 25 or 26 is a letter dated March 19th, 2020 from Town Manager Kevin Mizikot to Representative James O'Day and Senator Becca Roush on the Joint Committee on Municipalities and Regional Government regarding House 4572. So noted. And item 27 is a letter dated March 20th, 2020 from Nick Repector, Highway Division Manager, regarding a street sweeping report. Just one thing before we close. We had the snowstorm last night or over Monday night. The highway department and the plow contractors needed to get out and clean the roads off for us, and they did it, and they did it in great fashion, and were very proactive in instituting their own social distancing. I can't think of the right term, but they did a great job realizing the issues that were at hand, but still got the job done. So we want to thank them. They were out for a good part of last night. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I would just like to say again for the residents of town, thank you for your cooperation. We will get through this if we all work together. If you have problems, you have issues that you need to talk to someone in town, please call Town Hall or contact any of us. And we will do our best to get answers for you and rectify any problems that we can. So having said that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Nice job, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Thank you.
Aye.
Mr. King, Mr. Cassavant,
Aye.
Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo, aye. Thank you to everyone for watching, and thank you for everyone for all the hard work they've done over the past several weeks during this crisis. And we appreciate all you've done. So appreciate all you've done. So thank you very much. Good evening.